In this video, I will go over the OHDOT Plan Signatures application, how it works, and how it can be used to help with the digital signature process. So I'm in a title sheet file, and I've already placed my title sheet cell. Let's go over using the application. So to launch this application, you will go to the OHDOT workflow, the Apps tab, the Sheets section, and then the title sheets drop down. The first one will say OHDOT Plan Signatures. Now, when you first launch this, if you get a dialog box that says that you're missing the design script variable, you're going to want to check out our other video that will go over how to fix that and why that's needed to be set before using this application. Briefly put, if you don't have that variable set and you start placing things, when you go to print, those will not turn into digital signature fields. Okay, so now let's go over the application itself. When you first open the application, you'll notice that there are two tabs. There's one for placing seals and one for placing signatures. So we'll go over the signatures tab later on in this video. So in the seals section, you have the option to place an engineer seal, a surveyor seal, or a landscape architect seal. The engineer seal and the landscape architect seal are pretty much the same, except for the type of seal it places. The surveyor seal does change slightly, which I'll go over later in this video. So for the engineering seal, you have an option to call out what part of the plan you're sealing. So there's a drop down that gives you some starting values, but you can leave it blank if you're going to sign for the whole plan, and you could also type in whatever you want if you want to call out something else specifically. The subtitle is there to help with that as well. So an example is if you're going to maybe sign off on a particular bridge, you can put that the title is bridge and then maybe the subtitle, the bridges that you were signing off on, right? So next you're going to fill in your name. So if you want to put a middle initial, you can, and then you can put in your seal number, license number, and the scale by I will go over with the surveyor seals in a little bit, but you're typically going to leave that at 1. Now your placement location just helps you with placement. So if you're going to place over here, you're going to want to use bottom left so that you can snap to this corner. If you're going to place on this side, you're going to want to use bottom right so that you can snap to this corner. So now you can play. Before I go over placing it, I wanted to show that there is a Save Current Values button. So if you're going to be placing your seal a lot, you can just have it save the current values listed in this application. So I can hit that, and you notice down in the bottom it says that the user seal settings were saved. So next time I open the application, this is what I should see as a default. So now before I go over placing a seal, I wanted to show in the work set location. So I'm in Project Rose, but it works the same way outside of. If you go to your 990 Workset Standards folder, the plot drive, you'll notice that right now I do not have a design script file. Once I place a seal, the design script file will be created. So I wanted to show that before I ran this. So now let's go and place this, and we can just kind of snap over here to the corner, and that will place my seal. And let's take a look at it. So what I wanted to call out specifically is that there is this cell that got created, and you see if I hover over it, the cell name is this long number string. So that is a GUID. So every time you place a signature with this application, it's going to generate this cell with a unique GUID for each cell that you place. That is needed for when you print to the PDF, because that is what's going to turn into the signature field on the PDF. And that cell name, that unique GUID, gets added to the design script file so that when printing it knows that that cell should be turned into a digital signature field. So now you notice I do have that design script file. So if I go ahead and open it, it's going to have a bunch of stuff in there for if you had used previous versions of the app. So most likely you're not going to be using that top part. But at the end, here's where it's going to add signature fields. So the next signature I place, it'll add another one below it. You don't really need to worry too much about it. I just wanted to call it out because you're going to want to make sure that this file is there, or really that variable is set that I mentioned in the beginning, because without that variable this isn't getting updated. Okay. Now, if you move or need to delete, I just want to make sure that you get the whole block, right? So you don't want to move, this part and leave this signature cell there, because then your X is going to be, wherever this block is on the PDF. So you want to make sure you delete this if you're deleting the whole thing, or if you're moving it, you got to make sure you move the whole thing with it. So the landscape architect seal is going to work the same way, other than it's going to place a different seal here. Now I will say that you do not want to use the subtitle, because the landscape architect seal is actually slightly bigger when you look at their specifications, and it runs into the second line. So other than that, they work the same way. So if I place this, just throw some text in there, you'll see that it is just slightly bigger. So it goes into that line. So I jumped over to the right-of-way centerline plat file to show placing Surveyor seal. So in this file, I don't really have anything set up, as you'll notice. But this particular sheet is really signed for filing with the county. So I would suggest not doing digital signature, because most of the counties aren't going to accept a digital signature. But you're going to still use this application to place your seal. So I want to go over just a couple changes. So what I've done is I've brought up the right-of-way manual, and so typically what you've seen is you got your block of text here calling out what you're basically signing, and then you had a couple lines for your kind of name, what your number, your seal number, your license number, the company you work for, the date. So what we've done is we removed this part, and all that information is going to be shown within the signature block. And since you're using this application, it's going to look the same as any of the other seals that get placed. So that is why the company name is now listed here, because that was one of the information that used to be off to the side. So now you got two lines to put in your company name if you need it. Your name works the same. You put in your license number, and then you can place this, right? So I can place this, and it works the same way as the other seals, where it's going to generate that GUID, unique cell. But for this, since you're not really doing digital signature, if you're going to print this out and hand sign it, I would suggest just deleting this little cell out here, so you don't get that red X in the PDF when you print that you think it should be digital signature. So this is really the only exception to the digital signature process, since this sheet is really being signed not for ODOT, it's being signed for sending to the county, which is why you're not really following the digital signature process. Now I did want to mention the scale by here, because some counties might be very strict and they don't even like this digital seal part with the hand signature, and they want the actual physical seal. And so this is where the scale by comes into play, because most of the time you're printing this sheet out at a quarter size, so 11 by 17, but this cell right now is set up for full-size printing. So when you print to that quarter size, it's technically shrinking down to fit to that 11 by 17. And so what happens is this box gets basically halved, and it'll be too small to fit your physical seal in there. So that's why the scale by is there, so that if you're going to hand seal this, you're going to want to, and if you're going to hand seal it and you're not going to print it out at full scale size, right? So if you're going to print out 11 by 17, you need to make sure you come in here and bump the scale up by 2 to double the size of it, so that when it shrinks down, it's the actual real size that you want. So I'm going to place this now with the scale 2, and you're going to notice it's twice as big. So that way, when you print out, it's actually going to be sized correctly. Now, then I would just delete this out, so that you can place your physical seal and then delete that out as well. So now you have the box area to seal and sign and date manually, but there's that process for you. Now, I do want to call out this is only for the sheets that you're going to be filing to the county. So that means your right-of-way legend sheet would still follow the digital signature process of placing this seal.
Next, I want to go over the signature tab of this app. So what I've done is I've switched over to a GU file. And so this file is going to contain your signature sheet. The signature sheet is an 8.5 by 11 sheet border, and it's going to be used to place all of the non-sealed signatures. So people like city officials that might want to sign the plan. So I do want to note that while this app will set up these signatures to be digital signature fields, just like the Seal tab, this page doesn't actually have to have digital signatures. That's part of the reason why these signatures are being moved over to a separate sheet. So really the requirement for digital signatures is only for seals like engineers and surveyors. So to use this app, we're going to fill out these two title lines, which can be used for pretty much whatever you want. So if you know the person's name, maybe you put their name on the first line and then their title followed by maybe their organization, like maybe their city that they work for or something like that. So really these two lines are open to be used for whatever you may need. There is a save current values, which works the same way as the seals tab. It'll just save the current values for this tab. So next time you open it up, they would already be populated. Now when it comes time to place it, you just hit the place signature and it will hover over your mouse. Now we do have placement points. There's 20 placement points to start off with. So you can come here and just snap to one of those points and then data point to place that. And so if we take a look at what got placed, you'll notice that there is this little cell box here, just like with the seals, and that has a GUID to it. And so when we placed it, the design script file was updated to include that cell name. So when it's printed, that will turn digital signature field. Now again, you don't necessarily need to have these as digital signatures. The other thing I wanted to mention here is if you're going to move these around or delete them, you want to make sure that you get all the elements here. So there's 3 text elements, a line, and then this cell block here. So if you're going to move those or delete them, make sure you get all of them. And then the last thing I wanted to show was that the design script file is actually been updated. So if I open this file up here, and we scroll to the bottom, you'll notice that there are these signature like callouts here. So it says like this cell name should, if you find it, turn it into digital signature field. So as we were using the app was updating this file when you were placing those signatures.